Today I'm going to show you all something here, something I got it recently. Can you see it clearly? It's natural. This entire piece is a wish-fulfilling jewel, and on top here are the moon and sun. Have you ever seen a wish-fulfilling jewel before? Actually, a wish-fulfilling jewel is just a stone. Oh yeah. Now, let us begin our teaching. Did we complete the transmission reading up to today's section the other day? Today we may have a bit more content. Our material might be... I've already been speaking for 10 minutes plus another 15 minutes. Kumarajava's translation is different from our Tibetan translation. Generally, Kumarajava's characteristic style of translation is that he reduced many repetitions. So later translators also had some criticisms of him. In his version here, in the Tibetan text, basically there are quite a lot of similar terms repeated. Perhaps in the Tripitaka, other sutras are also like this.
Digbavardi semcher nala shan sangwa sangwa chimbo sangsangbo yangji vidmi jigzum umbrv chirde tabe chupa makarbo chujir namjang dan jikten ji kan mamji bandar semcher nala churtondo pabme khwara shanchu sangwa chimbo sangsang yangji na jikten ji kan mamji tar kibi semcher nala kyoba ten jikten ji kan mamji bandana shanchu sangwa chimbo sangsangbo yang tenan derni jigzuk saf chirde tabe chupa makarbo chujir namjang ji semcher nala tondo shtiyo tambandi zamchir na nyamba me pa sherbe yang nyamba me pa rigji shanchu sangwa chimbo sangsangbo dana ishi ji na wan derni kinjikten ji kan mamji bandana na won jikten ji kan janda kan kalong shimar ni na shanchu sangwa chimbo semcher namla de shanchu sangwa zigji churtondo nyantu jindarwa semcher namla nyantu ji zigji churtondo rangsang ji jindarwa semcher na rangsang ji zigji churtondo tevjang shakbi ndarwa semcher namla tevjang shakbi zigji churtondo tevjang shakbi rangchir ji warda ndarwi semcher namla tevjang shakbi rangchir tondo yongsam nyinga lendebi ndarwa semcher namla yongsam nyinga lende bar tomba pam khwara de shanchu sangwa chimbo sangsangbo yang dana ishi ji stopki ba towo tene de Shansuwa Chimbo, Pame Huardi, Terkichi Sordo, Shang, Jondan de Shansuwa Chimbo, Sansang Bu Yang, Givisa Chimbando, Jondan de Tangan Kangla Nede, Shang. Sawa Chimbo Sansang Boyan, Jiktin Kamter Nidaturvatang and Kandala, the Turkish Sorne, John the Dance, a Jabjum Band over Sanji Shirja, the Vision Sawa Chimbo, Pame, Huarland, Turkish Sardo, Rigiva, Tangans and Lane, Jansu Sanwa, Sanwa Chimbo, Sansang Boyan, Jindala, Semja, Hodamiba, Shiban, Zug Tamchayan, the Berton Baton, the Tangans and Yeno, Sansang Boyan, Legend of Shani, Shansu Sanwa Chimbo, Sansang Boyan, Hanji, the Shansu Chimbo, Chak Chu, Stone, Chag, Yatcher, Savje, Kandang, Jiktin, Kamamjindar, Labate, Tamji, Zik Tamchi, and the Berton Batangans and Tober Girdo, Jiktin, Kamamji, Pandana, Bijan, Zoma Chimbo, Jangwal, and Debataki, Yang, Zik Tamchi, number Tabatum Batangans and Tober Girdo, the Nijan Zoma Chimbo, Sansan Boyangi, Jondan the Terrors about Jabjumba on the Borzoba Santi, Shakat about Jondan the Terrors about Jabjumba on the Borzoba Santi, Renjin, Ranchi Jim Chutin La Yang, Yang Shan Yachivalam, Chubershi, the Rumbo Chesnav, then the Congress of Jigte, Jang Namna Rapta Yorki de Pami, Charna Raptum Beva, Sarnian Shia Chaptu, Gaston Len Jang, Chanchu Sanwa Shia Chaptu, Gaston Gatch Savji Yonsu, Kortem Dundo Darne, Hanchik the Flarian, Rangasanti, Jang the Sonde, Chimney, Jonathan the Town Sabat Chambayan, Doberzosan, Department of Matrimony, Percami, Gerbometo Kundar and Dirkich Sordo, Jonathan de Jiktenji Kam. Mamjid the Kasemsen Namla Tunu Shiso, Jonathan the Sabat Chambayan, Doberzosan, Jerensham Garanti Jim Chupayam, Tongo, Shirjam Shiso, Jonathan the Sabat Chamba, Shirkiat Abayam, Tonte, Shir Gizo, Jaur John the Kerayam, Tong, Shanship Sanhua Chimbo, Manji Gerbo, Sunji, Toshi Tobadan, the Vision Sherba, Shanship Sanhua Chimbo, Rapt Jinbayam, Tong, Shanship Sanhua Shua, Chapter Gaston, Gadget Savage Potato, Tamcher, Zik Tamcher number of Baton Batans and Tober Kirdo, Shanson Chimbo, Sanson Boyan, Draw out a Gongo League of Shat Ban Na, Shanship Sanhua, Jitch Nistung, Merkivechula Zoper Kirdo, Shanship Sanhua Chimbo, Pame Huarti, Yang, Tambichupa Makaro, Tanginzan, Tober Kirdo, Tambichupa Makaro, Le Sansan Boyangi, Legacy Shavate, Nish Saxon Bagu. Yeah.
Back in 1986, His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok went to a certain place, and at that time there was something, a stone we didn't recognize. To us it looked like just a stone, and he had us monastics recite the dependent origination mantra for a very long time. Today's content is quite substantial. That's okay. No problem, right? To liberate all beings from samsara, please generate supreme bodhicitta before today's teaching. In our Lotus Sutra, we are now teaching the chapter on Bodhisattva by Sagyaraja. In this chapter, we have already explained some of the experiences of Bodhisattva by Sagyaraja, including the merit of burning his body and fingers. And we also explained that the Lotus Sutra is the king among sutras. We explained this principle. Then following this, the Buddha tells Bodhisattva Constellation King Flower, this sutra can save all sentient beings, and moreover, this sutra can enable all sentient beings to become free from all suffering. This sutra benefits all sentient beings and can fulfill all their wishes. So in our present times, if you don't have any special circumstances, it would be best if you could listen to this class before leaving, okay? If you do have special circumstances, you may leave early. Otherwise, in this lifetime, this might be your first class or perhaps your last class. I very much hope you will listen to this class in this lifetime, having come to this human realm. If you have something particularly urgent, that's fine, but at most you would just be leaving in the evening anyway. There's nothing else really. We often depart after finishing class. It can save and protect all sentient beings and dispel all suffering. This sutra is like a cool pool of water which able to satisfy the wishes of all who are thirsty. Moreover, this sutra is like those who are cold obtaining fire or naked people receiving clothing. In today's society, many people might not want to receive clothing. Some merchants obtain their merchant leader, their business partner, or their caravan leader. When drifting on the ocean without a caravan leader, it's very dangerous. Then there are wandering children who find their mother, and it's like those crossing a river obtaining a boat, or sick people finding a good physician, or obtaining a bright lamp in darkness, or poor people obtaining wish-fulfilling jewels, or commoners obtaining the position of king, or merchants obtaining wish-fulfilling jewels from the ocean. For example, if you go to the ocean to retrieve treasures, it's like obtaining the ocean itself. This Lotus Sutra is actually like a bright lamp that dispels all darkness. many people mentioned earlier, when they most needed something, obtained what they were seeking. Actually, this Lotus Sutra enables all sentient beings to obtain complete fulfillment. This Lotus Sutra is also like this. It can enable all sentient beings to become free from all suffering and all illness, and can release all the bonds of birth and death. The bonds of birth, aging, sickness, and death can be released through this sutra. If someone hears this Lotus Sutra or copies it themselves or has others copy it, then this merit, if measured with the Buddha's wisdom, would have no way to truly exhaust its limits. Whether we recite it or practice it in any way, this merit, the Buddha's wisdom, cannot be compared with anyone's wisdom, yet even with the Buddha's wisdom to expound it, it would be very difficult to exhaust. Now, if there is someone, I haven't told stories from the Lotus Sutra records before, have I? We still have 3 days, so let's try to persevere here. Is it okay to teach here? Yes, it should be fine. In the Lotus Sutra records, there is also an account of 2 monastics, one called Sengxing and one called Sengfa. Sengxing held other views, while Sengfa practiced the Lotus Samadhi. They lived in the same room together. Their personal relationship was very good, though their views differed. One was studying what was at that time a Buddhist school, but actually it was a non-Buddhist teaching. Later they said that once they had departed from this world, whoever was reborn somewhere should inform the other through dreams. Later, Sengxing, who held wrong views, left this world first. After he left, Sengfa waited for more than 3 years, but there was not a single dream from him. Later he wondered where his friend had been reborn. Once he specifically observed a precept of fasting, a kind of abstinence from food, and prayed to Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. After 5 days, in a dream, a monk took him to see his friend. It turned out he was taken to a hell realm, and there the hell guardians introduced him, saying this was his friend. Actually, he had already been burnt to charred remains. Nothing but a piece of charcoal remained. At that time he said, "How could this be my friend? This has already been completely burnt." Later, after that hell guardian blessed it, his friend's physical form appeared. At this time his friend told him, "Why are you in this condition? Is there any way to rescue you from hell?" He said, "Because I previously held wrong views. Perhaps I harmed many sentient beings at that time, and for this reason I fell into hell, continually experiencing the suffering of burning. Now, to be liberated from this, you only have 1 day's time to create a copy of the Lotus Sutra for me." He said, in 1 day's time, because in the past it wasn't like nowadays with quick photocopying. In the past, 1 day was simply not possible. The Lotus Sutra is so large, what can be done? He said, if there isn't such a strong force of good roots, my karmic obstruction is too heavy, and there's really no way to be liberated from it. But at this time he woke up. After waking up, he was very sorrowful. He sold all his possessions, and after selling them, immediately hired 40 calligraphers who used to copy books. That is to say, those who copied books, not everyone could do it. In Tibetan area, it's also like this. Generally, only very few people copy sutras, so he hired 40 scribes to create copies of the Lotus Sutra and can be completed in 1 day. The entire Lotus Sutra was copied. After it was copied, that very evening he had another dream. The same monk from before, who should have been an emanation of Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, told him that his friend had been freed from the suffering of hell and had obtained a celestial body in the Deva realm. There are several points here. One is the merit of teaching the Lotus Sutra, and another is understanding the fault of holding wrong views. Some of us who are wearing monastic robes, but actually also frequently propagate some wrong teachings. This is also very dangerous, because it influences many people. Another point is that for some powerful negative karma, there should be powerful virtuous deeds. If we do it gradually and sequentially, it won't work. Sometimes when we hold Dharma gatherings, we recite from morning till night, reciting the entire day. This appears very tiring, like the Chan Week retreats in Chinese Buddhism, but actually concentrating all one's strength into 1 day's virtuous roots also has a great effect in purifying negative karma. After I saw this story, sometimes I feel that 1 day seems like when I went to Yushu that day I taught 8 sessions. It was indeed a bit tiring, but at that time I wasn't doing it to dispel the suffering of hell. It was because the schedule really didn't allow otherwise, so I taught like that. But But sometimes when we concentrate many virtuous actions together in one day, this is also extremely meaningful. This is an additional story from the Lotus Sutra inserted in the middle. I don't know if this is okay, but it should be fine. Here it also talks about copying. If this scroll is offered with flowers, incense, necklaces, burning incense, powdered incense, anointing incense, and also banners, canopies, clothing, and various lamps. Among lamps, there are also butter lamps and oil lamps. Look, butter lamps, they're listed separately. Butter lamps and oil lamps, and also scented oil lamps, and also kampaka oil lamps, sumana oil lamps. These are all various kinds of oil to make lamp. Nowadays, oils are especially numerous. When you go to different countries, each country has many types of alcohol, many types of oil, and many types of perfume as well. Then patala oil lamps, vasika oil lamps, and also navamalika oil lamps, and so forth. Making offerings with these, the merit obtained is also inconceivable. In the future, with our Lotus Sutra, if we carry it with us, it's quite heavy. And indeed, sometimes if you have your own shrine room, it would be best to place it in your shrine room. Previously, we had online Buddha offerings. I don't know if the Lotus Sutra was included in the online offerings before. If not, starting from today, we should add a Lotus Sutra if some families don't have faith in Buddhism and there's really no way to set up a shrine at home. We can offer the Lotus Sutra on the online Buddha offering platform. These offerings truly can change our destiny, but on the surface, they seem quite simple. I also saw a story in the Lotus Sutra records. There was a place, it said that in a foreign country, probably somewhere outside India, there was an iron stupa. Inside this iron stupa, there were very many sutras, probably with the Lotus Sutra as the main one and many other sutras as well. There was a heavenly maiden who came daily to make offerings to the sutras, which are inside the iron stupa. Once there was a wandering monk, a kind of itinerant monk wandering everywhere. This wandering monk stayed overnight inside this iron stupa. He probably had some spiritual powers, and he saw a heavenly maiden come at night. During the day, she was probably a bit busy at work because she was a servant, so during the daytime she is quite busy, and just like some staff in our companies during working hours, there's really no free time, so at night they go to circumambulate, recite sutras, or attend classes. So this heavenly maiden was also probably quite busy during the day, and at night she would regularly come there to make offerings to the Buddha's sutras. That monastic asked, "Where do you come from? For what reason do you come here to make offerings to Buddha images and sutras?" Then this heavenly maiden said, "In my past life, I was actually a beggar, extremely poor. At that time, beside where I regularly begged, there was a lotus pond, and there were many lotuses in the lotus pond. Many faithful men and women would go and make offerings to sutras and stupas with these flowers. Then once I also sent a WeChat message. That's what the original text says. It's not like our modern WeChat messages. What she meant was that I generated a minute amount of faith. You're thinking, how could there be WeChat at that time? The Lotus Sutra records say that at that time, that beggar also generated a minute amount of faith. She took 2 lotus flowers to make offerings to the sutras. Later, through this cause, I left my beggar's body and was reborn in the Deva realm. Now I am a servant of Chakra, a servant in Chakra's realm. So I'm especially grateful to this stupa and these sutras, which is why I come daily to make offerings now." Sometimes we can also think about this. When that monk heard this, he also generated faith and immediately sold everything he had for money and then bought flowers to offer to the Buddha. Sometimes if we truly understand this merit and you go to a monastery and offer 2 flowers or make offerings before a Buddha image or a sutra, this is an effortless matter for us. Perhaps we don't believe whether this can really have any effect or not, but look at that poor woman. When she generated a minute amount of faith, she still made offerings in this way. So sometimes when we look at a person's life, some Buddhist practices like offering to Buddha, offering lamps nowadays, some people don't understand, and if they don't understand, there's no way, but actually it truly can change many aspects of our future lives' destinies. So in this regard, everyone should make offerings, especially the Lotus Sutra. I've mentioned this several times before, because after we finish teaching this time afterward, we may not have the opportunity for a very long time. So I hope that with your Lotus Sutra in the future, you will place it in your shrine room. If you have 2 copies, you can carry one with you and place one in your shrine room, just like how we have 2 types of mandalas and offer lamps, water, incense, and flowers regularly. This is very important. This is a very simple action, but actually it accumulates vast accumulations of merit. Then the Buddha tells Bodhisattva, Constellation King Flower, if someone hears this chapter on Bodhisattva by Sagyaraja, they will also obtain immeasurable and boundless merit. If some women hear the chapter on the ancient accounts of Bodhisattva by Sagyaraja and are able to uphold it, then afterward they will not receive a female body. Because with a female body, sometimes some may wish to have a female body. In that case, there's no need to worry. Becoming a Dakin life after life is also fine. But some truly feel that, though the other day when I spoke to those entrepreneurs about their sufferings, on the surface, women entrepreneurs appear very successful. But actually, when you understand them, they also have many worries. For example, matters related to money, matters related to employees, policies, the environment, and including their own emotional affairs, all kinds of matters. So with a female body, on the surface, many appear to say, men and women are equal. There's nothing. We are feminists. We must have equality. But actually, there are also some sufferings that are different from men. In the Yuyenu Sutra, the Buddha also explained many particular faults and sufferings. So perhaps indeed a female body in terms of our human body in some aspects, including one's own afflictions, are relatively heavier. When I'm in contact with people, I also feel perhaps some women might not be particularly happy about this, but women's afflictions are relatively heavier. In many aspects, there's no need to worry. Comparatively speaking, men are slightly, for example, if one's appearance is not dignified, men might not particularly care. Getting old, so what? But generally speaking, many people, especially some Western women, place extreme importance on this. Attachment to emotional matters is also particularly strong, and also including how nowadays the divorce rate is especially high. Once people divorce, men may fare slightly better in some ways, but for women, it's even more difficult. Including now, many children are being raised by women alone. It's especially painful, and they lack capability and also lack experience in social interactions. It's extremely painful. So sometimes when I see this society now, I perhaps see quite a lot. Yesterday I told a Khenpo, perhaps you cannot see it, but I see all kinds of people and all kinds of situations. We monastics are still slightly better off. Outside in society, there's no sense of security. Look at society nowadays. I recently saw in some news reports that divorce rates have now reached 50%, 60% in places like Beijing, Tianjin, Shanghai, Guangzhou. Tianjin is said to be 60%. Comparatively, in the Tibetan region, it seems to be around 10%. The gap is still quite large now. More and more people don't want to marry and want to divorce. So marriage rates are getting lower and lower, while divorce rates are getting higher and higher in this society. So this society has become a bit. So if we compare to the traditional ways before, the changes are very great. Once many families experience things like divorce, the entire structure undergoes tremendous change, especially now with the 2-child policy. When there are 2 children, basically both become orphans. Their education issues, their living issues, many problems begin to become social problems. First it's a family problem, then it becomes a social problem. But when bearing this problem, men may be slightly better off. Their psychological endurance in various aspects are better. For women, sometimes their suffering may be beyond words. On the surface, they might still act as if they are free from worry or pain, yet deep down they carry a great deal of suffering that they cannot share with anyone. This could be the case, but then again, perhaps it isn't. My own judgments could be mistaken, and in fact, I hope they are. Whatever the reality may be, you can find similar reflections within the aspiration prayers of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. In any case, whether we are male or female in this Saha world, every person still has their own share of numerous sufferings. If you have a sense of refuge through faith, especially the wisdom that realizes the emptiness of all phenomena, it truly gives you the strength to face whatever comes your way. I feel it makes a world of difference. The scripture says that in the final 500 years after the Tathagata's parinirvana, if there are women, who hear the Lotus Sutra and practice according to its instructions, they will surely be reborn in the land of ultimate bliss at the end of their lives. There they will meet Amitabha Buddha face to face, surrounded by a great assembly of bodhisattvas, seated upon a jeweled lotus throne. Born through transformation in that pure land, they will no longer be troubled by desire, nor will they be afflicted by anger or ignorance. They will be free from the stains of pride, jealousy, and other such defilements. By then, they will have attained the 5 transcendent powers and the acceptance of the non-arising of dharmas. The Lotus Sutra records also mention something similar. If you hear the Lotus Sutra and recite it with a focused mind, the holy ones will reach out to guide you to the Pure Land. Amitabha Buddha, Mahastama Prapta Bodhisattva, and Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, they will all appear to bless and welcome you. And you will certainly be reborn in such a pure and sacred land. The Lotus Sutra records confirm this as well. This promise is not limited to women. Anyone who recites the sutra in this manner will be able to find rebirth in the land of ultimate bliss. It seems also in the Lotus Sutra records it says there was a person who previously copied the Lotus Sutra, a woman who copied the Lotus Sutra. Later she went to a monastery, and without departing from this world, in this very life, she transformed into a man. The nuns in her monastery were terrified. They thought yesterday she was a woman. How did she become a man today? She said, "This is nothing. It's the blessing of my reciting and chanting the Lotus Sutra." They didn't believe her, asking what exactly happened. She said, "If you don't believe me, my home is in such and such place. My father is called Good Birth, the Brahmin. The Lotus Sutra I copied before is there. You can have a look." Then she gave them all the addresses. I'm joking. I'm using modern language to say this. They followed what the man said and did so. Indeed, his family acknowledged, "We do have such a daughter." Later, they all acknowledged it. Then this home was renamed the Great Man Monastery, because that woman had transformed into a great man's body. So the Lotus Sutra records specifically tell how, through the Lotus Sutra, a female body transformed into a male body. They also told this story. After being reborn in the Pure Land, they attain acceptance and purity of the eye faculty. Through the purity of the eye faculty, they can see 720,000 of myriads of kotis, of nayutas, of tathagatas, equal to the sands of the Ganges River. At this time, the Buddhas from very distant places also praise, saying, "Excellent, excellent, O son of a virtuous family." In the teaching of Shakyamuni Buddha, you have preserved, recited, contemplated, and practiced through study, reflection, and meditation. Practicing the Lotus Sutra through study, reflection, and meditation, and expounding it for others, this merit is immeasurable and inconceivable. This kind of merit, fire cannot burn it, and water cannot wash it away. Moreover, your merit could not be exhausted even if 1,000 Buddhas expounded it together. You have already destroyed all the Mara bandits and all the Mara armies, and annihilated the Mara army of birth and death, and all other enemies have been completely destroyed without remainder. O son of a virtuous family, hundreds and thousands of Buddhas, through their transcendent powers, will protect you. So for those who recite the Lotus Sutra, as mentioned before, many Dharma protectors, many white god protectors will guard them. I also feel that there truly are many protectors. In our process of reciting the Lotus Sutra, in the process of teaching the Lotus Sutra, there is still protection from many Dharma protectors. I hope that you will not only protect us when we're teaching and listening to classes, but also reach a long-term consensus with us. You need to sign a contract with us. After we finish teaching the sutra and listening to the class and leave, that would be too realistic and not very good. I hope you will still, until we attain the fruit of enlightenment, regularly serve as Dharma protectors to guard us. Otherwise, only when we're teaching sutras, it's like some of our Dharma assembly protectors, after the sutra teaching is finished, they go home to sleep in. That wouldn't be so good. Among all the devas and humans in the world, there is no one like you except for the Tathagata. Even the meditations of Shravakas, Pratyeka Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas cannot compare with you. At that time it was said in this way. At that time, the Buddha told Bodhisattva Constellation King Flower that this Bodhisattva has achieved such merit, wisdom, and power. If anyone hears this chapter on the ancient accounts of Bodhisattva by Sagyaraja and can rejoice and praise it, then this person will emit the fragrance of blue lotus flowers from their mouth. No need to chew gum. Some of us would like to chew one piece of gum regularly or every day, but there's no need. If you recite a lot of times of the Lotus Sutra, your mouth will certainly be very fragrant, and from the pores of their body will regularly emit the fragrance of oxhead sandalwood. No need to apply any perfume. You do not need to apply it every day. The merit obtained is also as described above. Therefore, the Buddha told Bodhisattva Constellation King Flower that this chapter on the ancient accounts of Bodhisattva by Sagyaraja is entrusted to you after my parinirvana in the final 500 years. You should spread and circulate it extensively throughout all of Jambudvapa. Throughout all of Jambudvapa, the transmission of this Lotus Sutra must not be severed. It is my sincere hope that all of our Dharma friends, especially those of my generation, can pass this on through the ages. As is the way of the world, one generation must eventually make way for the next. Once those of us from the older generation depart, I look to all of you young people. Now that you have received this transmission, you must ensure that this sacred lineage is never broken. In this human world of ours, you must keep propagating it, even if you are the only one doing so. Do not give the evil Maras or their followers or any negative Devas, Nagas, Yaksas or Kumbhandas the chance to gain any advantage or find a foothold. Give them no opportunity to undermine or sever this precious lineage. As human beings, we have to be courageous in how we share these teachings. Propagating the Dharma requires a certain kind of inner strength. If we are all weak and passive, then in this world it becomes a battle of wills between the Maras and the Buddha. The outcome makes a world of difference. We have seen certain eras in the past, such as during the Cultural Revolution, when it seemed like Buddhism was being completely wiped out. The force of circumstances can change things in many ways. That is why, as Buddhists, we must be diligent and proactive. The great masters and virtuous teachers of the past gave everything they had. I have often thought to myself, regardless of when my time comes to leave this world, before that day arrives, I must continue the efforts I have always made. Ever since I arrived at the Larungar, though I didn't know much before then, it was only after I got here back in 1985, the year I first joined. I began by teaching the 30 verses and tutoring others on the way of the Bodhisattva. So on a recent Teacher's Day, I decided to write a post on Weibo to congratulate myself. Since no one else was calling me a teacher, I figured I'd acknowledge the many years I've spent in this role. I sat down and did the math. And it's true, from the very year I arrived, even if the teachings weren't always profound back then. I have been tutoring on simple Dharma teachings continuously until now. Personally, for myself, I'm just an insignificant person. In the past, I wanted to be a teacher's college teacher. At that time, I thought, can I become a teacher's college teacher? Even if there were only 5 students, I would do my best. My classmates and I were basically the same. Some far surpassed me in wisdom and ability, so I also know what my own capabilities are. But later, relying on the Guru's blessings and my own efforts, I have also formed some virtuous connections, so each of us should make efforts. So in this world, I hope you don't look down on yourselves. Each person should exert their rightful wisdom and ability. Bodhisattva Constellation King Flower, you should protect this sutra with your transcendent powers. You should do this. Why is this? Because this sutra, throughout all of Jambudvapa, is the best medicine for healing people. If anyone is sick and hears this sutra, their illness will also be dispelled. The illness here refers somewhat to previous lives. It seems in the Tibetan version here, if anyone hears this sutra, they will not age or die prematurely. It's not that they won't age or die. It seems in the Chinese version, after hearing this sutra, one won't become ill, won't age, won't die. But in the Tibetan version, the way it's expressed is a bit different. What it means is if one hears this sutra, some incidental mental illnesses can also be cured. Then there is the issue of premature aging. Some people start to age long before they really should. This practice can have a real impact on that. It doesn't mean that birth, aging, sickness, and death will stop altogether. We are talking about untimely death, like when someone passes away unexpectedly. Of course, when it is truly someone's time to go, there is not much more to be said about it, but there are others who die far before their time. In those cases, relying on this sutra can dispel these obstacles. The Buddha told Bodhisattva Consolation King Flower, if anyone sees one who preserves this sutra, whether one who propagates it, or one who recites it, or one who teaches it, they should also make offerings with blue lotus flowers filled with powdered incense, scattering them upon their body. If you see anyone holding the Lotus Sutra, reading the Lotus Sutra, you should scatter blue lotus flowers filled with powdered incense upon this person. Don't slander them. Don't out of jealousy always speak of their faults. This is unnecessary. After scattering, you should think, wow, this person is very remarkable, one who preserves the Lotus Sutra. In the future, there will certainly come a day when they will go to the Vajra seat and take the auspicious grass, and on the terrace of enlightenment destroy all the Mara armies. Blow the conch of the Dharma, naturally beat the great drum of the Dharma, and turn the wheel of the Dharma, ferrying all sentient beings across the ocean of suffering, of birth, aging, sickness, and death. Just think, this person now, reciting, copying, and preserving the Lotus Sutra, then in a short time in the future, there will come a day when they will turn the wheel of the Dharma, so they are a future Buddha. Therefore, those who seek the Buddha path, when they see those who preserve the Lotus Sutra, should give rise to such a mind of reverence. This is very important. I hope we Buddhists and Dharma friends in our study groups don't speak of others' rights and wrongs regularly, the rights and wrongs of which guru, schools, and any disciple, including our internal rights and wrongs. I hope you won't speak of them. The other day someone told me, the people in your study groups are very united. At that time my heart was very happy. This truly is the blessing power of His Holiness, Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche's lineage. Otherwise, even 10 or so people will have many rights and wrongs among them. We ordinary people tend to fixate on the negative and the unsightly. As for things that are pure, many of us are simply blind to them. The Buddhist community has become quite complicated nowadays. It often seems like there are so many issues, including cases where people file complaints with the government or authorities. The truth is, these reports are usually coming from within our own community. For instance, when certain gurus find their various private affairs becoming a source of trouble, it's Buddhists from different schools who are reporting them. You might see one Han Buddhist monk filing a report against another. Eventually, this draws the unwanted attention of various national governments. The same thing happens in Tibetan Buddhism. There is a surprising amount of jealousy within that tradition as well. This was something we really didn't expect to find. One might wonder if this is just the reality of Buddhism, but that isn't the whole story either. There are indeed those who act quite carelessly in our community. Even among our lay practitioners, you see a group studying the Dharma peacefully in one place, and it's not outsiders who report them. If non-Buddhists were the ones filing complaints, it would be understandable as a difference in faith. But these are our own people from within the faith. Being dissatisfied with certain individuals, they start filing reports and spreading gossip. Their intent in reporting is often to completely destroy the other person. That is their primary objective. On the surface, they claim to follow Mahayana Buddhism, but in reality, there is a lot of factionalism surrounding individual gurus. For example, as a disciple of one teacher, someone might feel spiteful toward another teacher, so they go and file a report against them. It happens over all kinds of matters. This kind of chaos is a very unwholesome sign in our religion. At a social forum we held the other day, an elderly gentleman stood up to speak. At first, it seemed like he was trying to pick on my faults, but then he admitted he couldn't find any. I'm not entirely sure if he was being sincere or not. However, he still highlighted several typical cases of Buddhists, including monastics, behaving quite inappropriately. That kind of criticism is actually very necessary. Some of our fellow Buddhists get upset at the slightest hint of criticism, but we really should be able to call out certain behaviors, regardless of whether it's ourselves or others involved. There are those who pretend to have merit when they have none. Others show up in circles where they have no business being, acting as representatives of Buddhism without any qualifications. Instead of avoiding conflict, we end up creating it, sometimes for purely personal reasons. We try to completely blacken someone's name and land them on a permanent blacklist. It is shocking how many Buddhists actually behave this way. Even within our own study groups, a few individual leaders truly have hearts as black as coal. The moment they get the upper hand, they go after all their opponents, including anyone who hasn't been supportive of them. They hold on to grudges forever and refuse to let things go. If someone was dissatisfied with them at some point in the past, they will brood over it constantly. They then let it infect all their actions, using their position of power to attack others. They might even expel people or do all sorts of things. It truly breaks my heart to hear how some Buddhists behave. Sometimes I can't help but think that when non-Buddhists stand up and call us out, it actually feels quite refreshing to hear the truth. I feel that things should indeed be held to that standard. Among us Buddhists, people may claim on the surface that they belong to a certain school or tradition. Yet the jealousy between different schools can be incredibly intense. If one school has a larger following of disciples, the other schools become deeply resentful. If one group is dedicated to study and meditation, the other side gets upset. In principle, it should be the exact opposite. Whenever there is sincere study and practice, we should be overjoyed that so many people are coming to understand the Buddha's teachings. But in today's society, everything looks fine and peaceful on the surface, while deep down, people are harboring poisonous snakes in their hearts. These snakes can strike and release their venom at any moment, harming both the person carrying them and everyone else. In the end, they are really only destroying themselves. Someone might claim they have aroused bodhicitta, yet they are determined to harass their enemies or those they dislike until the very end. By doing this, they end up losing their bodhisattva vows, and all for absolutely nothing of real value. So sometimes, as Buddhists, even if you don't make any contribution to Buddhism, it's best not to tarnish it or greatly damage it. If I didn't acknowledge this, I wouldn't even deserve to be called an 87-year-old man, as if simply being an 87-year-old man makes me someone special. Whenever we see others teaching the Dharma or see them deep in their practice, and it immediately makes us feel resentful or uncomfortable, it only proves that our own practice is incredibly poor. In the future, I hope that all of you, wherever you may be, will at the very least stop magnifying the mistakes of others. Of course, if something truly needs to be addressed, you can point it out to them directly. You just have to find the right balance. If you are offering guidance with good intentions, that's perfectly reasonable. But please avoid trying to harm others out of malice. Right now, at various practice centers, including within the different schools of Tibetan Buddhism, some gurus are dealing with very serious issues. There are still so many complicated situations. It is just as serious within the Chinese Han Buddhist tradition. Many of these problems are actually created by Buddhists themselves. Much of the damage done to Buddhism comes from within. You might not be fully aware of this, but we have seen quite a bit of what goes on behind the scenes. I'll leave it at that for now. I will let you guess the rest for yourselves. The wise will be able to figure it out, while those without wisdom will probably just guess wildly. During the teaching of this chapter on Bodhisattva by Sagyaraja, 84,000 Bodhisattvas attained the Dao'an that allows them to understand every language. In that case, there is no need to spend time studying various scripts and tongues. We should strive to attain that same Dao'an right away. Prabhutaratna Tathagata from within the stupa also praised Bodhisattva Nakshatra Rajasam Kusumita Bhijna. You see, if the chapter of entrustment had been placed in the middle, Prabhutaratna Tathagata would have already departed by then. Yet here he is still present in this scene. So the logic seems a bit off. However, if the chapter of entrustment follows the Tibetan version of the Lotus Sutra, it makes sense that Prabhutaratna Tathagata is still here. We see him present in several of the following chapters as well, and he offers his praise, saying, "Excellent, excellent Nakshatra Rajasam Kusumita Bijna, you have accomplished inconceivable merit. By asking Shakyamuni Buddha about these matters, you are bringing benefit to countless sentient beings. This shows that asking the right questions is incredibly important. It is vital to raise specific issues when you have the chance. It really matters. I often like to pause and let others speak while I'm in the middle of a talk. As they speak and ask their questions, they naturally start to highlight certain real-world issues. While they are asking, they share what is on their minds, like saying, I witnessed this or that, just like the observations shared by that 87-year-old man. They bring up the chaos and the areas of dissatisfaction, voicing the inner afflictions and sufferings that people carry. That process is very meaningful. That is why Prabhutaratna Tathagata was so grateful to Naksatraraja Samkusumita Bijñā. He thanked him for asking Shakyamuni Buddha such pointed and sharp questions. The Buddha used that opportunity to provide answers that benefit countless sentient beings. Today we may need to cover more content. The next chapter must be completely covered. Next, I won't elaborate extensively, but will teach gradually. This is the chapter of Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara, the 24th chapter. At this time, from Shakyamuni Buddha's cranial protuberance, light shone forth, and also from the white curl mark between his eyebrows, light radiated. This light illuminated eastward through 180 myriads of kotis of Nayutas, of Ganges sands, of Buddha worlds. Beyond all these worlds, there's a world called pure radiance adorned. The Buddha of this land is called Tathagata, pure flower, constellation, king, wisdom, possessing the 10 titles of the Tathagata. He has immeasurable bodhisattvas surrounding him and is teaching the Dharma to them. Shakyamuni Buddha's white curl light had already illuminated this land. At this time, in the land of pure radiance adorned, there was a bodhisattva called Gadgadasvara. Today's main actor is Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara. He actually planted extremely many roots of good merit long, long ago and paid homage to and approached immeasurable hundreds of thousands of myriads of kotis of Buddhas. And he achieved profoundly deep wisdom and attained what? Extremely many samadhis and meditations. What kinds of samadhi? Wonderful banner, mark samadhi, Lotus Sutra Samadhi, pure virtue samadhi, constellation king play samadhi, unconditioned samadhi, wisdom seal samadhi, understanding all sentient beings' languages, samadhi, collecting all merit samadhi, purity samadhi, and also transcendent power play samadhi, wisdom torch samadhi, adornment king samadhi, pure light samadhi, pure treasury samadhi, uncommon samadhi, and also soon revolution samadhi, like sunlight revolving and so forth. In this way, he attained hundreds of thousands of myriads of kotis of Ganges sands, of very many samadhis. Just now, this Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara, his wisdom is very profound, and he attained especially many meditations. Actually, within the Buddha's wisdom, there are many meditations. When attaining different meditations, different wisdoms are developed. At this time, Shakyamuni Buddha's light illuminated the body of Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara, just mentioned. Then Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara, addressing the Buddha of his own land, called Tathagata, pure flower constellation, king wisdom, spoke in the Tathagata's presence like this. He said, Bhagavat, I really want to visit the Saha World, go there to have a look. I really want to meet, although you are very remarkable, I still want to meet and pay homage to Shakyamuni Buddha. And I hear there's someone there called Manjushra Bodhisattva, Dharma Prince Bodhisattva, and also Bodhisattva Bhaisajaraja, Brave Dono Bodhisattva, Constellation King Flower Bodhisattva, Superior Practice Intent Bodhisattva. Earlier we had Superior Practice Bodhisattva. Here there's a Superior Practice Intent Bodhisattva. They're probably the same. And also Adornment King Bodhisattva and Superior Medicine Bodhisattva. You see Bodhisattva Bhaisajaraja and Superior Medicine Bodhisattva. Generally, on both sides of Medicine Buddha, there are often these two bodhisattvas. Usually, when someone decides to go somewhere, take our average disciples, for instance, when they want to go study under a different guru, they just slip away quietly without saying a word. Some gurus can be quite prone to jealousy, so they might not give their blessing. Disciples often lack the confidence to be open about it, thinking the guru is probably too simple-minded to notice, so they just sneak off. They don't even bother to say goodbye to the Khenpo or Khenmos. Eventually people start asking, where did they go? They haven't shown up for class in ages. As it turns out, they've run off to follow some other tulkus, geshes, or gurus, joining their inner circles and such. But these bodhisattvas still follow the proper etiquette. He said, I wish to visit the Saha World to see Shakyamuni Buddha. Would you give me your permission? Tathagata Pure Flower Constellation King Wisdom then addressed Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara. He said, if you choose to go, once you arrive in that Saha World, you must be careful not to look down on it. Noble son, the Saha World is nothing like our realm here. The terrain is uneven, filled with rugged mountains and ravines, where even walking is difficult. Whenever they build roads or waterways, there is always so much mud and debris. Many places there are quite filthy and chaotic, overflowing with all sorts of impurities. Furthermore, you will see that Shakyamuni Buddha's stature is considered great in their world, but compared to the Buddhas here, his body will seem very small. The bodhisattvas there are also relatively small in form. Your own body spans 42,000 yojanas, while my body is 6,800,000 yojanas tall. Your appearance is also exceptionally magnificent, which means things over there might not look very impressive to you. You possess vast merit and shine with a brilliant radiance. Since Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara is so incredibly majestic and possesses such a massive stature, once you arrive there, you must not harbor any feelings of disdain or contempt. Whether it is toward their bodhisattvas, their Buddhas, or their lands, do not think of them as inferior. This is a lesson for our own world as well. These days, people are obsessed with looks and judging others by appearance. Most assume that if someone is attractive or wealthy, they deserve respect and validation. But if someone's outward conditions seem lacking, everyone tends to look down on them. In reality, that isn't a very fair way to judge. His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche used to tell a story about a famous Tibetan master named Buton Rinchen Drub. Master Buton was actually quite unsightly when he was born, with an oversized nose and an exceptionally large mouth. His mother was so worried, she said, "He is my only son. But if people see him, they will just mock me." So she did her best to keep him hidden away. But then Master Buton said, "A son should be shown to others." In the name Buton, Bu means son, and Tan means to show or reveal. He insisted, "It's fine to show me to the world, don't worry." Eventually his parents did let people see him, and as he grew, his wisdom proved to be incomparable. He became a great reformer in the history of Tibetan Buddhism, a truly extraordinary and remarkable master. Then there was Huang Achu, remember. It is also said that Zhuge Liang's wife was very plain-looking, yet she was incredibly wise. You simply cannot judge a person by their appearance alone. Then there is the story of Master Dao'an. When he first sought ordination, his teacher thought he looked so unpromising that he sent him out to labor in the fields. He wasn't allowed to enter the monastery for a long time because he was considered exceptionally ugly. But later he was given a sutra or two to study, and he memorized them almost instantly. He eventually became a legendary figure in Buddhist history. He was the one who first questioned why all Chinese Han Buddhist monastics take the surname Shi. That tradition began with his insights. At that time he said, "Among all great teachers, none surpasses Shakyamuni. Among all great teachers, there is none who surpasses Shakyamuni Buddha. No one should begin with their own other surname." Later, after the Ekotara Agama was translated in Han Buddhism, within it there was 4 rivers enter the sea, no longer keeping their river names. The 4 castes becoming Shramanas all take the Shakya name. All Shramanas coming from all directions, should all use the name of Shakya. In the Agama Sutras, there is also this. Later, the story of Master Dao'an spread throughout the world. He also became a great historical figure of his generation. So sometimes appearance also cannot completely represent everything. Of course, in Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara's view, perhaps both Shakyamuni Buddha and Manjushra Bodhisattva in this Saha world, Shakyamuni Buddha and Manjushra Bodhisattva are extremely magnificent. But at that time, the Buddha told them, "You can go to the Saha world, but you must perceive the pure aspect." Generally, when a disciple departs at this time, the Buddha or the Guru regularly gives them some instructions. Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara at that time told this Buddha, Bhagavat, I want to go to the Saha world. This is the Tathagata's merit, the Tathagata's transcendent power, the Tathagata's power of playful manifestation, the Tathagata's merit, adornment, and wisdom power, that I can come, not my own. Actually, the relationship between Buddhas and Bodhisattvas is also like this, but we worldly people now at first may greatly value being in the Guru's presence, but as soon as they become a little famous or achieve some success, they completely forget about the Gurus and teachers who first ordained them. They cast all of that aside. At most, if a former Guru is famous, they might mention them for clout, but if they aren't, they won't say a word for fear of shame. This is one of many terrible habits found in worldly people. Even then, Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara maintained his humility, saying, Whatever merit I may have achieved, it is all thanks to you. Then, instead of making elaborate preparations, the Bodhisattva simply entered his own state of samadhi. Through that power of concentration, a miraculous sight appeared near Vulture Peak. 84,000 lotus flowers suddenly manifested there. These flowers were incredibly rare and extraordinary. Their stems were made of pure Jambunada gold, with silver leaves and stamens made of diamond. The platforms were crafted from Jinyan Shuka, a precious red gem. The moment he made that solemn vow, right near Vulture Peak in India where the Buddha was teaching, all of these lotuses appeared at once. It was a staggering display of these precious rare flowers. When Bodhisattva Manjushra saw this, he turned to Shakyamuni Buddha and asked, World-honored one, what is the cause of this? Why have so many lotus flowers appeared today? There must be tens of millions of them, all with gold stems, silver leaves, diamond stamens, and red gem platforms. Shakyamuni Buddha then explained to Manjushra, this is the work of Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara, a truly great bodhisattva. He comes from the land of Buddha pure flower constellation King Wisdom. He is bringing 84,000 bodhisattvas to my Saha world to pay their respects and make offerings to me. They also wish to honor and listen to the Lotus Sutra. He and his entire retinue are on their way and should arrive tomorrow. One might think we need to book a good hotel for them. But that's not necessary. They'll be staying right on their lotus flowers. Bodhisattva Manjushra then asked the Buddha, what kind of merit has this bodhisattva planted in the past? What practices did he follow? What is the nature of his supernatural powers? And what specific samadhi does he practice? Could you tell us the names of these states of concentration? We would also like to practice them diligently. Manjushra is quite eager, which is actually very interesting. Even before the visitor arrived, he was already deeply curious. He was likely fascinated by what he saw. The sight of those lotuses clearly moved him. The sudden appearance of so many flowers convinced him that this bodhisattva must be truly remarkable. He knew his samadhi must be incredibly powerful. He said, if we practice this samadhi, we might also be able to meet him. Through samadhi, we want to see Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara's physical form, the scale of his body, and how he carries himself in his conduct. Bhagavat, by using your own supernatural powers, could you find a way for us to meet this Bodhisattva as soon as possible? Since he is already on his way, we would really like to see him right now. At this, Shakyamuni Buddha told Manjushra that Prabhutaratna Tathagata, who entered parinirvana long ago, would be the one to manifest Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara's appearance for them. There are many specific reasons for this choice. While Shakyamuni Buddha could have done it himself in other contexts, here we are shown that things must be done differently. It's like being told you need to speak with the manager or the administrator. A Khenpo simply won't do in this case. It's about who has the right connection or the best relationship, using a Khenpo or Khenmo to act as a proper intermediary. So Manjushra Bodhisattva requested Shakyamuni Buddha, saying, I want to see that Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara. Shakyamuni Buddha said, tell Tathagata Prabhutaratna, and Tathagata Prabhutaratna will find a way to show him to you. At this time, Tathagata Prabhutaratna told this Bodhisattva, O son of a virtuous family, come, Manjushra Bodhisattva. He told Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara, come quickly. Right now, Manjushra Bodhisattva wants to see your body. At this time, Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara manifested his disappearance in his own land. He became invisible, disappeared there, and then then with 84,000 attendants he set out together. Of course, when setting out, it's as I said the other day, like lotus flowers that are unmanned flying machines. They came through manifesting transcendent powers. The countries they passed through all experienced different kinds of quaking and premonitions. They all received a rain of 7 jeweled lotus flowers, and they also heard the sounds of various heavenly musical instruments. This Bodhisattva's eyes were like blue lotus flowers, and his entire countenance was extremely, extremely magnificent, like 1,000 moons. His appearance was extremely magnificent, surpassing worldly people. It was like when we taught about Tara the other day, surpassing 100 autumn moons. When teaching about white Tara, there was also such a description. So Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara must be very handsome. You see, earlier they prepared for this, saying when you arrive at Manjushra Bodhisattva's place, don't look down on them. His body color was also golden with immeasurable adornments of merit. His majestic virtue was blazing and his light radiant. He completely possessed all these excellent marks. Moreover, like the Deva Narayana, he also possessed his strength and firm body. With such a body he entered a 7-jeweled lotus flower, then soared into the air at a height of 7 tala trees, surrounded by bodhisattvas. Together they came to Mount Gurdrakuta in this Saha World. After arriving, he descended from the 7-jeweled platform and took out necklaces worth hundreds of thousands, approached Shakyamuni Buddha, and began, according to the Tibetan version, when Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara departed, after prostrating 3 times to their Buddha and circumambulating him 3 times. He set out on his journey. It was like this when he came. Then when he arrived here, it was also that he circumambulated 7 times in the Buddha's presence, it seems. The Tibetan version has some differences. Here it only mentions prostrating at the Buddha's feet and offering the necklaces he brought from that foreign country, imported ones, as offerings to Shakyamuni Buddha. Shakyamuni Buddha certainly has very many necklaces. Moreover, Indians especially love necklaces. You see now in the adornments here, there are various kinds of necklaces everywhere. In the Buddha's biographies, every actor has especially extremely many necklaces and ornaments. Now we probably can't see them. Relations weren't very good a few days ago between China and India. Now it's a bit better, perhaps. At that time, he addressed the Buddha saying, O Bhagavat. After meeting Shakyamuni Buddha, he began to speak. Buddha, pure flower constellation, King Wisdom, sends his greetings to you. When leaders of some countries visit, it's also like this. A certain leader sends greetings asking about such and such. Our Dharma teachers in general are also like this. For instance, this Dharma teacher also, when conveying greetings, it's like this. Are you in good health? Is your daily life going smoothly? And are you happy? Also, are your 4 physical elements in balance? Living here in this Saha world, is there anything that feels too difficult to endure? Are there sentient beings who are simply beyond guidance? Are there any like that? Furthermore, among the beings here, are there many who struggle with greed, anger, jealousy, or pride? Are there those who are unfilial, who disrespect monastics or hold on to wrong views? Are there those who can't control their 5 senses or things of that nature? It seems that in this passage, some of the opening greetings are messages being passed along from one Buddha to another, while others might be his own questions. The Tibetan version of the text appears to make a slight distinction between them. Then he continued, World-honored one, are these sentient beings able to overcome the various hosts of Mara? And as for Prabhutaratna Tathagata, who entered parinirvana so long ago, does he still emerge from his jeweled stupa to listen to your Dharma talks from time to time? He really asked quite a lot of questions. I heard that Prabhutaratna Tathagata is present here despite having attained nirvana ages ago. Is he actually attending these teachings as well? Some questions like these are generally very tough to answer on the spot, mainly because there was no time to prepare in advance. Of course, he could probably give an answer whenever he liked. For the Buddha, answering wouldn't be a problem at all. Then he addressed Prabhutaratna Tathagata as well, asking, are you at peace and free of worries? Is it possible for you to remain here for a long time? Are you doing well? Are you free from troubles? Is the Saha world a place where you can still dwell? Since he is essentially visiting from abroad. Then he said, World-honored one, I now wish to see Prabhutaratna Tathagata. I hope you will allow us to meet. That was what Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara said at that time. Then Shakyamuni Buddha turned to Prabhutaratna Tathagata and said, Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara would like to meet you. Earlier, Prabhutaratna had mentioned that Manjushra wanted to meet him. Now Shakyamuni Buddha was telling Prabhutaratna, actually Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara wants to see you too. It seems they all have a mutual desire to meet one another. At this, Prabhutaratna Tathagata spoke to Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara. Excellent, excellent. You have come here to make offerings to Shakyamuni Buddha, to hear the Lotus Sutra, and to meet Bodhisattva Manjushra. Those were your reasons for coming here. You didn't really come here just to see me. Your primary goal was to see Shakyamuni Buddha. You're really just seeing me as an afterthought. Seeing me was never your main objective. At this moment, a bodhisattva named Flower Virtue appeared, and no, it's not the actor Andy Lau. So Bodhisattva Flower Virtue stepped forward. World-honored one, what kind of merits did Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara cultivate in his past? How did he attain such immense supernatural powers? Now, Bodhisattva Manjushra actually asked the same thing a moment ago. However, Shakyamuni Buddha didn't give a direct answer at that time. Bodhisattva Flower Virtue must have been dwelling on it, noticing that Manjushra's question had been left hanging, so he decided to ask again. The Buddha then told Bodhisattva Flower Virtue, in the distant past, there was a Buddha known as Cloud Thunder Sound King Tathagata. He was a Tathagata, an Arhat, a perfectly enlightened one. Those titles all signify the highest state of complete enlightenment. Essentially, this Tathagata, this Cloud Thunder Sound King who attained supreme enlightenment, his realm was called Manifestation of All Worlds, and the era or Kalpa he lived in was called Joyful Seeing. Over a span of 12,000 years, Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara honored this Tathagata with all kinds of music and offered 84,000 precious jeweled bowls. There are two main reasons for this, one being the musical offerings and the other being the offerings of bowls. Because of those virtuous actions, he was reborn in that Buddha's land in this life, possessing these incredible supernatural powers. This is exactly why we make offerings like musical instruments or bowls in our own practice. The Buddha then asked Bodhisattva Flower Virtue, what do you think? The one who offered music and bowls to Buddha Cloud Thunder Sound King all those years ago was none other than Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara Mahasattva himself. Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara has already served countless Buddhas and planted deep roots of merit. He has cultivated virtue before billions of Buddhas, as many as the sands of the Ganges. He has long been establishing these spiritual foundations. The Buddha continued to explain to Flower Virtue, while you see Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara in this physical form right now, and this is how he appears to you, he actually manifests in all sorts of different ways. He is a truly powerful being. Although his true body has come to this Saha World, his presence isn't limited to a single location. He has emanations everywhere teaching the Lotus Sutra. So right now, if we regularly pay our respects to him, it's quite meaningful. You'll even find this in certain prayer texts. It's a common part of the tradition. So what does this look like in practice? He teaches the Lotus Sutra among all kinds of beings. He might appear as the Brahma heavenly king or as Lord Shakra, king of the Devas. He could take the form of Shvara or even Maheshvara. Sometimes he appears as a great heavenly general or as Vaishravana of the four heavenly kings. He might manifest as a great wheel-turning monarch or as a minor king. He appears as an elder or perhaps as a simple lay people. He could be a minister or a Brahmin. He takes the form of monks, nuns or lay followers and even respected elders. Some might be those who have taken refuge while others have not. He also appears as a lay woman or as the wife of a high official or minister. He manifests as a Brahmin woman or as a young boy or girl. He even takes the form of devas, dragons, yakshas, or gandharvas. He shows up as asuras, garudas, or kinnaras, mahoragas, humans and non-humans alike to share the Lotus Sutra. So Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara uses all these various forms to rescue beings in the hells, the hungry ghost realm, and the animal kingdom. He even helps those in the 8 difficult conditions. He even reaches into royal palaces and inner chambers. In those inner courts, he might take a female form, appearing as a queen or a lady lady-in-waiting. That's how he shares the message of the Lotus Sutra. He might teach it directly, or he might communicate it in his own unique way. It's like how young people today often say, I have my own way of dealing with things, I have my own way of living. It's that same kind of idea. They have their own methods, just as Brahmins and Asuras have theirs. They each have a specific approach that works for them. So when we occasionally run into an Asura, it might actually be a manifestation of Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara. We really shouldn't hold any hostility toward them. Flower virtue, Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara, can save so many beings in this Saha world. He is able to transform into so many different forms. When it comes to the beings of the Saha world, Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara uses all sorts of ways to teach them the Dharma. Yet his supernatural powers, his transformations, and his wisdom aren't diminished in the slightest. Many of us also teach the Dharma, and this certainly doesn't cost us anything. It actually helps all kinds of wisdom grow. The Bodhisattva uses his vast wisdom to light up this Saha world, helping all sentient beings attain his level of insight. He does this in every world across the 10 directions, as countless as the sands of the Ganges. It's not just happening here in our Saha world. Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara is incredibly powerful. He liberates beings by appearing in whatever physical form is necessary. For instance, if someone needs the form of a Shravaka to be saved, he will teach the Dharma appearing as a Shravaka. If they would be best guided by a Pratyeka Buddha, he teaches them appearing as a Pratyeka Buddha. If someone should be saved through the form of a Bodhisattva, he teaches the Dharma as a Bodhisattva. If someone is to be saved by a Tathagata, then he teaches the Dharma in the form of a Tathagata. By using all these various forms, he even manifests as one who has entered extinction for some. Sometimes living people can't be guided while the teacher is still there, so Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and Gurus guide them by manifesting parinirvana. Manifesting parinirvana is actually just another way to guide sentient beings. That's why when many great masters throughout history passed away, eminent monks and great scholars would write about them this way. This is common in Tibetan Buddhism, though Han Buddhism doesn't seem to do it quite the same. Tibetan practitioners won't directly say a master has died or passed away. They don't use those terms. They write that to eliminate the wrong view of permanence for countless beings. The master manifested nirvana and appeared to enter extinction. So even in extinction, there is still the benefit of that manifestation. The Buddha told Bodhisattva flower virtue, Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara Mahasattva possesses such immense supernatural powers and wisdom. He is truly that kind of person. At this point, Flower Virtue Bodhisattva addressed the Buddha. World-honored one, Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara, has planted such deep roots of merit. In what kind of samadhi does he dwell, world-honored one, that he can manifest like this to guide sentient beings? The Buddha then replied to Flower Virtue Bodhisattva, son of a virtuous family, his state of concentration is called the manifestation of all physical bodies. You might remember we talked about this meditation of manifesting all physical bodies before. Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara stays in this deep state of samadhi, and that is how he is able to help so many different people. Right as the chapter on Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara was being shared, the 84,000 who arrived with Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara all attained the samadhi of manifesting all physical bodies. It is quite possible that those in his retinue had not yet reached this realization when they first set out, but they all achieved it right then and there. Countless bodhisattvas from right here in our Saha world also attained that very same state at that moment, mastering the samadhi of physical manifestation and various dharans. So after Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara Mahasattva finished making his offerings to Shakyamuni Buddha and Prabhutaratna Tathagata, he finally headed back to his own home world. His business trip abroad was officially a success, so he has already made his way back home. And he didn't even lose his passport along the way, so that is good. In all the different countries he traveled through, there were earthquakes and flowers falling from the sky, and the music of celestial instruments could be heard everywhere. Once he got back to his homeland with those 84,000 bodhisattvas around him, they all went to pay their respects to Buddha Pure Flower Constellation King Wisdom. They made sure to say hello as soon as they got back. They aren't like some people we know who just just take off without saying a single word, leaving everyone wondering when they actually returned. It's like, oh, I didn't realize you had been here so long. Of course, if there are just way too many people, it might be better to skip the greetings or it gets pretty tiring. There are certain situations where it might not be such a big deal. But generally speaking, for someone like a teacher or a manager, you really should show some basic manners. Even the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas treat each other with this kind of courtesy. In reality, they don't actually need to say hi or ask for leave. They don't strictly need any of that. But this is just how a person of high character acts. So no matter what kind of group or community we are in, even as practitioners of Buddhism, we shouldn't just do whatever we feel like. We can't just say, I'm not attached, and then come and go whenever. If you act like that, it really shows that your personal standard is lacking in many areas. So you see, after Bodhisattva Gadgadasvara got back home, he said, "World honored one." I went to the Saha World and helped the people there. I finally met Shakyamuni Buddha, and he was so incredibly kind to me. I almost didn't want to stay back here with you because I'm already thinking about going back there again. I also visited the stupa of Prabhutaratna and offered my prayers. I met Manjushra, who is the prince of the Dharma, and I also met Bodhisattva Bhaisajaraja, along with Bodhisattvas, Persevering Effort, and Brave Donor, and many others. There were so many Bodhisattvas there, and the food was great too. The 84,000 Bodhisattvas with me also mastered that same meditation. By the time the Buddha finished this chapter on the journey of Gadgadasvara, 42,000 gods reached the level of the non-arising of dharmas. Flower Virtue and the others also attained the Lotus Samadhi, and we will stop here for today.
Jirgana jirano chupai, jupun solen droa droa bandrangara badna asadarda bandrangara badna asadarda bandrangara badna asadarda